The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
Hannah, so much going on this week in Evergreen Park, even though we all just survived, I believe, the movie The Day After Tomorrow. Remember that one where, like, the whole world freezes?
I never watched it.
And you have to walk. You got Dennis Quaid
notes.
trying to save the kids inside of inside of New York City. You don't remember that with the big giant wave and the freeze? Well, that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like the entire weekend here in Evergreen Park.
It was horrible.
Brutal cold.
And it's gonna get worse.
And an awful lot of snow. Now, here's the deal. I was pretty impressed, and I have been impressed ever since the snow started falling over the last couple of weeks with Evergreen Park snow removal.
Really?
And I'm going to tell you why. Drive into Mount Greenwood. Like, my folks are in Mount Greenwood, and I'm in Evergreen. What a difference. Like, Evergreen Park is like, they've got the street clear. And you can tell they go down it more than once. Because there isn't, like...
You can see the asphalt at the bottom.
It's up to the curb.
Yeah.
Like, they've got everything pushed back to the curbs, even on the side streets and stuff like that. You go through Mount Greenwood, even major thoroughways that have, like when you go down Central Park there, they have a yellow dotted line down the middle.
You can see it.
all it is just, like, one guy just drove his truck through there once, and all the cars are, like, covered in snow and, like, just kind of pushed into the snow, and they never came back through again. Like, you can't find the curb because they're nowhere near it. It's the most haphazard job. It reminds me of all the reasons that I like to live in Evergreen Park. I'm going to get into some of those today. We're also going to talk about my diet I've been going through. I know you just started taking online classes. We're both doing Pilates. That should be a lot of fun. It's all brought to you by the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. First National Bank of Evergreen Park, proud sponsors of the EP podcast, and they know when you're working towards a financial goal. Every little bit counts when you're doing it. That's why when you open a Total Access checking account, you get free ATMs nationwide. Now, when they say that, that means you show up and you use an ATM in California and there's a fee. They not only take care of the fee on their end, they pay your fee to whatever bank's ATM machine you used. You go into a bar and it's like an $8 fee because they're trying to rip you off. They pay it. And you get a $300 bonus, and you get great mobile and online banking tools. You will have easy access to your money, plus a little extra to start the year off right. Open online at bankevergreenpark.com/total access. $100 required to open. Requirements to qualify. Must use link to apply. Member FDIC. Joining me on the phone line right now, here's a man who's sitting around trying to figure out what he's going to do this summer after an awful lot of years serving as your mayor. James Sexton on the phone line. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
Great, Chris. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's been a really interesting last week or two here in Evergreen Park, mainly because this is a big snow. We've been getting an awful lot of the white stuff falling all over the place. I was able to build like a little thing down the stairs for the kids to slide down. And I wanted to get you on the line today because I am super impressed with the snow removal. Now, I'm on 99th, but I've also driven through the neighborhoods, and I can see the snow getting pushed back basically to the curb. I drive by our biggest suburb that's next to us. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's snow everywhere. It's like they went through it one time and it didn't even like uncover the streets. What goes into that job? How many guys you got working on that when it's snowing?
Well, first of all, we have the best people in the world to work with. They do an incredible job, have for many years, Chris. Typically, there's 8 to 10 to 12 on a 12-hour shift plowing. As I've always said, I get the pictures in the paper and I do the podcast and they do all the work. But they are incredible at what they do. They take such a personal interest in making sure that the streets are clean so we can get our public safety vehicles in and out, that it's incredible. But they've been that good for a long, long time. And a lot of times it depends on the timing of this. Now, the other night was a weekend. We had the big snow. It was a weekend, which made it a little easier to clean up. We asked people to get your cars in your driveway if possible, get them off the street. These guys can do curb to curb if there's nothing in their way.
Yeah, and you know what? It almost seems like they kind of swing back around, too, which is Because I don't see as many cars buried in Evergreen than I see when I go visit my folks over in Mount Greenwood. So it seems like there's an awful lot of time being put into it, which is really cool. Another thing I wanted to bring up to you, we saw it the other night, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. There was a fire truck riding around my neighborhood with a spotlight, and then I found out later that the Evergreen Park Fire Department was going through the trouble of driving around at night with a spotlight, making sure that people's gas lines weren't covered in snow. They were making sure that things were cleared and that the hydrants, they could get to them. I've never seen that before. But again, I think that talks a little bit about how the fire department's run.
Well, they are the good, same people that live here and work here that really are concerned about their neighbors. As the street department, as all of our departments are.
I want to ask you, while I got you on the line, about what's going on with the post office, because the news kind of trickled out over the last month or so. You're taking an initiative to try to work with what's going on in the Evergreen Park Post Office. I mean, you don't have to look far when you go on the EP Facebook pages and social media to see people griping about the fact that they haven't gotten their mail. I actually filled out a complaint form through the village website because we had 3 cards mailed at the same time from grandparents out in Kansas City. 2 arrived before Christmas. The other one took 2 weeks until after Christmas to show up at the door, and that's not an uncommon thing. What's the plan, and what are you working on?
Well, we work very closely with Miss Hall, who was the supervisor at the Evergreen Post Office before when we had problems, and she's always been very reactive. So State Representative Kelly Burke, State Senator Bill Cunningham, and myself have a phone meeting with Ms. Hall to discuss the list of things that we have questions about. I think nationally, the Postal Service has seen better days. They don't have enough people. This weather hasn't helped them. But prior to this, it wasn't the weather. They're just very short on people. They've got vacations. They've got COVID people, and it's become very difficult. But that's not an excuse, and we're not going to accept that for an excuse. So we will talk to Ms. Hall and try and get some relief for some of the problems that we have. As I said, she's been more than workable in the past, and I believe she'll find out a solution for this also.
Yeah, because there was that thing, I want to say, a little while back that they found a bunch of Evergreen Park packages sitting in an alley or in a garbage can in Chicago. So this is also something that you kind of have to work across city lines as well and try to figure out where the problem is. But you're saying that the person over there from the Evergreen Park Post Office generally works really well with you guys.
Ms. Hall always works very well with us, and you mentioned that the Chicago thing, they were having problems at the Mount Greenwood Postal Service out there. In fact, you'll get a kick out of this. I called Alderman O'Shea after they found that our mail in an alley in Mount Greenwood, and I told him to stop stealing our mail. He got a big laugh out of that one. But no, those things are happening, and we are here to try and correct them and have the Postal Service do the best it can. Although they don't report to us, it's a federal agency, as is the railroad. We have to speak up for our people and try and get some of these problems solved, either whether it be the railroad, which we've done so much better on of late, because we fought that fight 3 years ago. And now it's time to talk with the Postal Service about how we can make things better over there. We do have 10 or 15, 20 pages of complaints that we need to go through with Ms. Hall, and I suspect that she'll get most of them straightened out.
Excellent to hear. So I would imagine before I let you go, I want to ask you, you're pretty excited about the fact that some of these restrictions are lifting, because I'm seeing life, even more life out of Evergreen Park businesses than I've seen in a while. And I've talked to a lot of local business owners who are telling me that they can see at least the light at the end of the tunnel, which is making them feel a little bit more confident. I would think with you getting ready to leave your longstanding position as mayor, you're excited that if you're able to leave and things are back on track or getting there, that would make you feel a whole lot better.
Well, absolutely. And I've talked with a lot of people. As this morning, we had a grand opening for the new 7-Eleven at 95th in California. So, yes, things are happening. Things will get better. I said from the beginning it was a long way. I didn't realize the tunnel was going to be this long. But I think we're getting towards the end. There's vaccinations going out. We do testing every Friday at Yukich Field, COVID testing at the north end of Yukich Field every Friday, together with our county partners, Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Daley. We run those things on a regular basis. So there are things happening. I just am not very patient. I want more to happen.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask you that, and if you don't have the answer, I totally understand, because I know how confusing this vaccine distribution is. It seems like the county is the place to go if you're in Evergreen Park. Has there been any exploration into the idea of having an Evergreen Park mass vaccination event, or trying to figure out how to get out more information to people? Because I've noticed, like with my folks, my parents are terrible on social media. And they've had it took them a long time to figure out how to be able to find a vaccine. And I'm sure you have a lot of people that are trying to figure out how do they get it, especially the elderly population.
I am currently working with Commissioner Moore and Daley to get a large site here in Evergreen Park to distribute these vaccines. There's nothing definite as of yet, but we are working on them. CVS, Walgreens, Mariano's, they are supposed to be getting supplies tomorrow and getting ready to give shots. There's a big site out in Tinley Park that does it. But you're right. It's been rather confusing as to how they go about this, when they get it, and when they can give it out. So I'm hoping within the next week or so that all gets cleared up and gets better. But there's a lot of agencies involved. And once you involve a lot of agencies, there's typically headaches.
Exactly. I understand that. Well, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you jumping on any time with us, and I always appreciate your time just letting us in on everything that's going on in Evergreen Park. Good information there, and once again, excellent job by Evergreen Park Services during the all the snow and the cold weather. When you see the firemen riding around checking houses when they could very easily sit inside and stay warm, when you see the streets cleaner here than nearby and surrounding Evergreen Park, it really sticks out.
They do a wonderful job. They're so consistent. It's year after year after year, and I don't expect any of that to change. One final thought, Chris: if we can help our elderly neighbors clean a car, clean a sidewalk, clean their driveway, let's try and please do that. I've been out in and around my house helping some elderly people, and it makes me feel so good when it's done that I helped somebody that couldn't help themselves. It's an incredible feeling. It's a great high.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
You have a good one. Stay healthy.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them. Another reason why I'm happy to be in Evergreen Park.
Yeah.
All of my children are in school.
Yeah, and it seems like the 5-year-old's happy about going back to school. He was filling me in on the gossip who had the red bone.
Oh yeah, he's over at Southwest School.
Oh yeah, somebody was not listening to the teacher today, and he got an orange bone. And
I didn't even know there was an orange bone.
There's an orange bone.
This is crazy because what I've heard there's a green bone, there's a yellow bone, and then there's a red bone. And red is the worst. Orange is like something where obviously the teacher was like, "You're bad, but I'm not throwing you outside." So you're just getting an orange. I don't know what it is. It's inside the kindergarten at District 124 Southwest School. That's where he's at. And he comes home every day and gives me a report about who got bones and what colors they were.
Who got bones?
Even though like I'm like, have you got any other bones besides greens? He's like, nope, straight greens. Like, he's super proud of it. Like, this kid is.
That's what he should be.
The day he comes home and doesn't tell me about the bones, I know he got a different color. Like, that's how I'm going to know. But at least he's in school, for crying out loud. Like, this is getting ridiculous. Like, I know friends of mine that are outside of Evergreen, their kids haven't been back to school yet.
Yeah.
This is insane. Like
the mess that's going on with CPS right now between the union and the school board,
it's
and
brutal.
and these poor kids are stuck in the middle of it. They're the ones suffering. It's like they're more concerned with the teachers at this point than they are the kids. But I'm not getting into that. I don't talk about that. But that's just
I have no problem with you talking about it. Look, let me tell you something. I spent 6-7 years as the union president for the Cook County 911 dispatchers. I worked on 2 contracts and an arbitration case. I know what it's like to be in a room with a big entity, much like how the teachers union is talking with CPS. And let me tell you something right now. The reason I became president was because before I got in there, both sides were asking for things that had nothing to do with the contract. They were trying to rewrite everything, and that's what this feels like. This isn't about opening up the school. This is about, like, this issue here and this other issue here. Yeah, and that's why I had to come in as a new president, because my membership got mad and threw the other person out because they were sick of that, and they just wanted somebody to go in and get everything done. And I'm waiting for that to happen. And sometimes that's what happens in these negotiations.
I just feel bad for these kids.
You know what? I feel bad for them, but you know what? Another reason why I grew up at 80th and Spalding. I was in Chicago. 15 years now in Evergreen Park. When my wife and I were going to buy a house, don't think that we didn't think to ourselves, would I rather live in Chicago with the craziness or go to a place like the EP where I had friends who told me this place was awesome? Yeah. And I've never regretted that decision ever. We have core fitness and physical therapy coming on. I'm losing weight. I'm doing Pilates. You are too.
Yeah.
We've got a lot ahead on the show. Stick with us. It's the EP Podcast, found everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at the eppodcast.com. It is now time for your EP Podcast Word on the Street, brought to you by Tom Walsh at Edward Jones Financial, located on the corner of 111th and Kedzie. Best thing I can tell you about Tom is that I have had multiple people. They talked to Tom, and they came back to me and said, thank you. You want to talk about your now? You want to talk about your future? Give them a call, 773-779-0023. There is an ice skating field trip taking place 1 week from the date that this show comes out on Monday, February the 15th, put on by the youth department for grades 5 through 12. It costs only $8. You have until this Friday the 12th at 5 p.m. to register. Do it right in the community center at 3450 West 97th Street. Give them a call as well, 708-229-3377. The Evergreen Park Police Department is looking to hire school crossing guards, 708-422-2142. The day this show comes out, Monday the 8th, and also Wednesday, February 10th from 6 to 8 p.m., there is an open house for 3 to 4-year-old preschool. Evergreen Park Recreation Department Preschool preparing now for the 21-22 school year. Call and schedule an appointment for those 2 dates are also this Saturday from 9:30 to 11:30 in the morning, 708-229-3373. That's your word on the street, and this is the EP Podcast. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it. Don't miss a thing. Are you a CFO, HR professional, or owner of a company, big or small, and you're tired of the typical health insurance premium increases each and every year? Out of control premiums with no end in sight. Well, now there is the Elite Benefits Formula. This process has saved employers and their employees thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars each year. These strategies are avoided by most insurance professionals, and the insurance companies definitely do not want you to know about them. But Elite Benefits of America is ready to help you. Just about all employers in the Chicagoland area can now take advantage of some or all of these strategies and start saving money. Butch Zemar from Elite Benefits of America wants you to reach out to him today. Visit EliteBenefits.net or call 708-535-3006. So we got a comment from last week's show sent in on the phone line.
Okay.
I know you love this stuff.
I do. I love it.
Anytime, 708-459-8406. That's 708-459-8406. 8406. And the caller was listening to mayoral candidate Shawn Good, who is running against Kelly Burke, who's also a state representative, and both of them are running for mayor. Both have been on. Both of them I gave the exact same title to the show. Like, I'm trying to be so even on this.
You are. You're doing excellent. You really are. I mean, you were like, before we interviewed Shawn Good, you're like, okay, this is what we did for Kelly. We asked Kelly this. We asked Kelly this.
No, I didn't give her the questions.
No, you
I never gave her the questions.
No, when we were preparing.
Oh, yeah, you and I were talking.
Yeah,
right,
when we were preparing, you were making sure, like, you were going to ask Kelly this. I mean, ask Shawn.
Similar questions. Some of them were different. But
Well, the same line of questioning.
The same lines.
Yeah.
So you can go back and you can listen to that if you missed it. But one of the things both have brought up is the CSX train lines crisscrossing over 95th Street to the east of Kedzie and the problems with that. And Kelly Burke's main point is it's a federal issue. And I at least have some connections. We're going to try to work with people higher up in the government. And Shawn Good's issue is I want to have a study. They both had different ways that they were approaching it.
Right.
After it was over, a caller called in. Remember, you can call 24/7, 365. Leave any comment that you want for the EP podcast at 708-459-8406. And this is what he had to say.
Hi, Chris. Matt Schumann in Evergreen Park. Listen to the EP podcast all the time. Just calling today after listening to your most recent podcast with our new mayoral candidate. Just a piece of information is that railroads are governed at the federal level, and there's very little oversight or enforcement on the local levels. Evergreen Park in the 1980s and 90s was ticketing the railroads, but that ability to ticket railroads for blocking grade crossings, as an example, was stripped away by federal law. And railroads now rely with the Surface Transportation Board and the Federal Railway Administration. And I think the people don't realize is that the number of trains that come through Evergreen Park and the number of freight cars take many trucks off the road and actually help with congestion in the greater Chicago area and nationwide. They are a benefit to the community, and people should see that. So, great shows. Keep it going, and we look forward to them all every week. Thank you. Bye.
That's a good point, what he's saying there, and I think that's been brought up a little bit by Kelly Burke, and it also is one of those things that makes me wonder, is it even an issue that they can argue
for
over?
Us,
can either one of them as mayor actually fix it? And that's the thing I'm trying to figure out.
It's more like which one can really make the federal government do something.
Yeah, but but here's
who's going to do that? How is a small
can a state
mayor?
representative make the federal government do something?
Can they? I don't know. I have no idea how this works.
Can a mayor do it or something like that? We're going to definitely have follow-up interviews with them. We're going to invite them both. We're doing this in a rotation, so I'll be reaching out soon to candidate Burke and see whether or not she wants to come back on and talk some more. But these are the kind of things that I'm paying attention to. We've got an awful lot of comments and an awful lot of people listening to the show. Listen, the most listened to episodes of the EP podcast in the last 4 months, Sexton announcing his retirement here on the show. We were the first people he talked to.
Yes.
Kelly Burke talking about her candidacy and Shawn Good talking about her candidacy. Far and away the biggest 3 episodes that we've had.
Well, yeah, you're the only one covering this. There's no one else covering this.
Don't rip the patch. They're doing stuff. I mean, Beverly Review got a story in there. I don't want to be mean to people. Well, we are. We're trying to cover this as best we possibly can and give people a voice so that they can ask questions. If you ever have a question for either one of those candidates, you don't have to wait until we announce them coming on. Call that number, 708-459-8406. The EP podcast rolls on. Found everywhere podcasts can be found and always at theeppodcast.com. Imagine, one day, out of nowhere, you need your car towed. Who are you going to call? You have no idea. Right, because none of us think about that until it actually happens. So I'm going to give you a name, Dreamers Towing and Recovery. Located in Evergreen Park, Illinois, they will tow your vehicle, locally or at a long distance at a very affordable price. What happens when your car needs a jump start? Dreamers Towing and Recovery. What happens when you're locked out of your car? Dreamers Towing and Recovery. You got a junk car, you don't know how to get rid of it, and you just want to move along and get some cash? They buy your junk cars. Covering the EP and the surrounding south side of Chicago, Dreamers is there when you need them with 24-hour service. Call them, 773-410-4549, 773-410-4549. Turn a sudden nightmare into a dream with Dreamers Towing and Recovery. So I'm down 7 pounds.
Good. good.
That's exactly what I was last week because I plateaued.
Well, I was going to say, weren't you down 7 pounds last?
Yeah, I know. I plateaued. I actually cheated. I went out and ate a big meal one night, and then I convinced myself that I was doing so well I could have more beer another night, and I just plateaued. And so I've gotten back on track over the last 48 hours, and hopefully I'll continue to lose the weight. I did start doing the thing over at Core Fitness and Physical Therapy, and I feel really fortunate that they offered to help me with this when they heard me talking about it on the show, because we had done stuff with them before. They're listeners of the EP podcast, and they reached out and they were like, well, let's help you with Pilates. And I kind of thought, yeah, all right. Like, I know you do it, right?
Yeah, I love it.
But it just seems to me like a girl thing.
No, it's really not. It was invented by a man.
No, you're right, because I did it, and I was sore.
Yeah.
Horribly sore. And joining us on the phone line right now is Terry McCabe from Core Fitness and Physical Therapy. And I have an awful lot of questions about how something that seemed so gentle when I was doing it ripped me apart. Terry, how are you?
Hi, Chris. How are you? How you feeling?
I feel better now than I did the day after, especially the afternoon after my first try of Pilates. I went in there with Melissa, and she clearly knows her stuff. And she's trying to teach me from the ground up, like, what Pilates is. The entire time I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to forget all of this. Like, this is how you stand. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And she was like, don't worry, everybody forgets. I feel like I'm learning like a new language right now. It doesn't feel like exercise. And then I get to the end and I get home and I feel like I've been hit by a truck. And I'm like, wow, I really did work out an awful lot of my body, but it didn't feel that way when I was doing it. Is that normal?
Yeah, so that's really common, and I appreciate that you had that same experience. So the thing that makes Pilates really special in the way of fitness and working out is that it is meant to take you out of your own chronic movement patterns. So we all get in habits, the way we walk, the way we sit, the way we hit a baseball or play volleyball or whatever our chronic movement patterns are, we get really comfortable in those movement patterns. So Pilates asks you to move differently. I always think of it as like a series of overcorrections. Like what I might have my client do in a session might feel extremely opposite of what their natural tendency is. But the goal would be then to kind of meet halfway, to meet in the middle in real life, especially as we age. You know, we think, how long have we been walking a certain way, or how long have we been sitting or typing or whatever a certain way? And then it takes some time to undo that, right? It's gonna, it might not take a full 30 years, but it's certainly not going to be fixed in one session. So that commitment to, and that wherewithal to learn all of the things, like you're saying, the new language, the new way of thinking about movement, the new movements, all of it takes time to really sink in and become effective, for sure.
Well, the thing is, and I get what you're saying there, because I'm walking down the street now trying to remember where my feet should be.
Yeah.
So you've kind of like now I'm like, am I walking right? This is now running through my head all the time, and I've just started because of all the things that not only Diane showed me when she did the first like evaluation that we heard here on the podcast. If you missed that, go back, it's on demand. But then now with my first session, and originally I was like, well, I'm going to record this whole session. Like I'll make jokes, I'll do this. And then I kind of looked at what was going on. I was like, I'm not recording this. I really want to give her an opportunity to just do what she's going to do with me. And while we're doing the exercises, first I'm thinking, please don't fart. Like the entire time she's stretching me, I'm like, just Chris, please just don't rip one in the middle of Core Fitness and Physical Therapy. Because there was a point where she's like on the table and she's bending my legs back over my stomach. I'm like, I'm going to fart in this poor woman's face so badly, and they're never letting me back in again.
It's happened to all of us. It happens to the best of us. It's very common. It's a very common part of Pilates.
Luckily I was able to hold it, but I was petrified. I was like, oh no. And, but the thing was, after it was over, I could feel for the rest of the day those problem areas. And at first it was like, wow, that's some pain. But then it also kind of, it's almost like I become aware of nagging injuries or nagging problems that I have that only pop up once in a while. And you don't address them because it's like, wow, that hip bothers me today. Maybe I should see a doctor. And then you don't feel it for 3 more days. Like this actually showed me like you have something there and there's a way to correct it by working on all your core muscles, which I thought was really cool.
That's awesome. And I think you're right. I think we get so used to feeling a particular nag and then we were like, I've had it forever and it doesn't really bother me that much. Well, it's because we compensate. We figured out a new way to walk, a new way to avoid that discomfort. So we never address the problem. We start walking out of alignment. We start moving out of alignment, and then we just shift the problem area somewhere else. So I think that's really cool that you're experiencing that.
I thought it was crazy when Hannah and my wife were like, oh, you should go work out at Core. And I was like, yeah, but I got to build some muscle. I got to do all the stuff that like guys do. And I was like, this is silly. This is stupid. Then I went and I did it. And I was like, man, if I would have gone and worked out like right out of the bat after not doing anything like that for a while, I would have hurt myself really badly. And there's like these little things that I've got to get right, because otherwise I'm just going to be working on the wrong areas, and I'm not going to do it right. And I'm not walking right. And I'm not 20 years old. Like I can't just pick up some dumbbells and just go to town. Like there's things that I've screwed up in my life with my body, either not taking care of it or just through age. And it's kind of fun just listening to the explanations while I'm doing these things. And I'm not always doing the exercise. That's the thing I kind of want to let everybody know. Like there was a lot of times where like Melissa's basically like bending me into shapes. And she's like, just relax, which is weird for me because I am not the kind of person that likes to be manhandled by another human being. And it was like, just relax. I'm going to pop your shoulder this way. I'm like, what? And but it was a good thing because in the end, I could tell there were things that needed to be worked on. I would have never thought of doing those things.
And Melissa is one of those people. And I think that it speaks, or I could say this about all of our staff. She knows her stuff. She has committed. This is a seriously bright woman who has committed her skill set to helping people feel better. And she knows her stuff. So not only does she know the Pilates method really well, she has great hands-on techniques. She's done a lot of additional training in working with the body. And so there is a ton of benefit. There's a ton of benefit beyond getting stronger and working particular muscle groups and overcorrecting for compensatory patterns. There is a lot to be said for letting someone help you heal and getting in there with their own hands and creating some, just a little bit of TLC.
She's also really good at boosting my ego. Like she wanted me to like touch my toes and I couldn't do it. She's like, that's actually better than most men your age. I was like, oh, thank God, which is probably an absolute lie. But she was just like, every time I couldn't do something, she's like, no, that's better than most. And I'm like, she's lying to me, make me feel better. But she does a really good job of telling me I'm doing a good job, even when I think I'm screwing up. So kudos to her.
Yeah. And I always love about Melissa, she's very polite too. She'll always be like, now 10 more, please.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think if I had a regular, like, if she was just a normal personal trainer making me run or do something crazy, I'd be like, knock it off. I'm tired. Yeah. But with her, it's like, I feel bad. I'm like, yes, I'm going to keep doing this thing. Like, she kind of guilts you into doing it. But it's a good thing. Terry, I appreciate the fact you guys are helping me out with this thing. I feel like this is actually going to work. I'm looking forward to the next time I get to walk back in there. It's like going to a spa, or like what it really is, a really high-end physical therapy place. And even though I don't have an injury per se, this whole system seems to be like righting some wrongs, and I'm in for it. You can mark me down. I kind of want to see where this goes because it makes me feel just a little bit healthier and kind of helps me with the start of my diet and me trying to get myself back into shape. This is a great starting point. I would recommend it to anybody.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. We love having you. And Joseph Pilates has one of his most famous quotes is, when I'm dead, they'll know I was right. He felt firmly that his method would work. So we do too.
I'm totally into it. I can't wait to see what happens next, and I will try not to fart inside of your studio.
Okay. We'll let you come back anyways, even if you do.
Another show isn't wrapped up. Another show's in the books. Another show isn't wrapped up. And then by the looks, it's going to be a good one. And we'll see you next week. And the nude is basement. And the nude is basement. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And it's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. Nudie's Basement. Broadcast Basement. The Nudie's Basement. The Broad Basement. Sláinte.
The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found. And always at the eppodcast.com.